Welcome to the Samuelson House. This house was built in 1910 by a guy named Milos, and the price tag was pretty steep. We've gotten a few prices along this tour. In 1886, for $85, they built the courthouse. 1903, they built the one-room schoolhouse for $984. The Harmon House in 1908 cost $1,995, but this house cost $13,000 to build. It was sold in 1921 to J.W. Samuelson, the owner of Samuelson Shoe Store. As we enter the Samuelson House, on the left here you can see our history of washing machines, where we start where everything had to be worked by hand. As we continue on, though, into the future, better and better technology allowed easier and easier washing machine work, which meant that with less domestic work, people had more free time to engage in their hobbies. And as we reach the 1950s, you can see the famous Maytag washing machines. And I'll even point out a portable washer from Handy Hot from 1946. Good for about 3 shirts. So as you can see, we've entered from the porch outside, and this is what a rich person's house would have looked like in the early 20th century. They relied a lot on natural light with their large windows. They also, as you can see the ceiling railing there, that was how they hung their paintings and portraits, so they didn't have to put any holes in the wall, which were plaster. And all of these pieces are of the period. But not all of them are from the original Samuelson House. You can see some from the original Samuelson House in the dining room here. The 2 end chairs, the dining room table, and the sideboards, like this one, are all original to the house. And in fact, you can see a photograph of the Samuelson family there, including J.W. Samuelson in his famous white shoes. He did run a shoe store, so you can see a pair of shoes from that shoe store here. And as we go downstairs here to what we call the music room, I can show you a little bit more on the Samuelson Shoe Store. And you can see some more shoes on display, as well as a photograph of the shoe store and an advertisement from 1906. The shoe store ran from 1899 to 1994 and liked to stay modern. So in the 1940s, they got a fluoroscope, which worked to show you how well your shoe fit by X-raying it. Now, in the actual music section of our music room, I'll point out the Edison phonograph, which ran off of wax cylinders that had recorded music instead of the vinyl records that would come to dominate the industry. In fact, eventually vinyl records would come in like the form of this Victrola, the record player, which, since they did not have electricity in the house, would have been crank powered. When they did get electricity, though, they could have included a radio like this one. Now, this room was originally added as a side bedroom when they renovated the upstairs in the 1930s to turn them into apartments to rent out during the Great Depression. So let's go upstairs. As we come up the stairs here, we're going to look at some of the apartments that they rented out. So the first build apartment here, you'll see some different fashions, as it has a full walk-in closet. As you take a look at that, you'll see some styles from the early 20th century as well. I'll point out the furniture here, the 1870 Daveno couch. I'll also, as you can see some of the furniture here, I want to point out the portrait of John Samuelson, J.W. Samuelson's son. This portrait was painted in 1903. I would like to then show you the other room over here. This is what we call kind of the immigrant's room, because of the suitcases that you can see. So this would have been a rich person's suitcase in about 1910. It's called a steamer trunk. It's got a full chest of drawers, a foot locker, and these pull out so that you could browse through your clothing on your hangers. Now, the other suitcase we have is actually the oldest artifact in our collection. This is a Norwegian money chest from 1697. That makes it over 300 years old. This would have been brought over by Norwegian immigrant Ole Hestekind, who came over in 1881. And he would have packed not just money in here, but family heirlooms, jewelry, pocket watches, things like that. J.W. Samuelson himself, the owner of Samuelson Shoe Store, was an immigrant from Sweden, and Ward County was built by immigrants. Now, as we come out of this building, I can show you the common room for the apartments here. So this would have been for the residents of both apartments, and you can see a carom board there, which was like billiards but played in the home without a pool table, as well as a bird cage. It was pretty fancy, as even the people who rented this apartment would have been more well off. And we come to the kitchen here. This kitchen was added in the 30s renovation. That's also when they added electricity and running water to the house. Before that, the water came from a cistern in the attic. I'll point out on the counter there a couple of toasters, and the stove was electric, as they also replaced their icebox with a refrigerator, which could do something that an icebox never could: make its own ice. Now, as we come out of the kitchen, we will turn this way. You'll see another added amenity with the bathroom here, but also on the other side here, you'll see the stairs going up, and these stairs here. This outside staircase was an original part of the house that would have come in through that door, and it would have been the servants' entrance. In 1910, it would have been considered gauche to allow the servants to come through the front door, but they would have still wanted the servants to come in, and they would have lived on the third floor. So there could have been in the Samuelson house any kind of servant living in the third floor: a cook, a maid, a butler, but we currently have it set up as a nanny's room for taking care of the children. So let's go. Welcome to the third floor. I'll point out briefly the door to the attic here, as the attic would have been uninsulated, and the servants' quarters the only room insulated. And this is where the cistern would have been for the water supply before they got city water. Now, as we come into the nanny's room here, you can see toys and kids' clothing and things to basically entertain the kids, which would have been the nanny's jobs when the kids' parents couldn't or didn't want to. I'll also point out the chamber pot next to the nanny's bed there. That would have been for going to the restroom in the middle of the night. On the vanity here, you have a basin and ewer for washing your hands and face in the morning, and the old-fashioned light switch, which was a turnstile rather than flicking up or down. And that is all of the rooms and all of the buildings in the Pioneer Village we have here, although we're constantly adding things and changing things. So first, I want to thank you for coming out to visit for this tour, and second, I hope to see you again sometime. Bye.